This is a fine example of abstract expressionistic art. This particular painting by Dan Cooper hanging here in an art studio in Larkspur, California. But this painting did not begin with brush and paint. It began with a computer, in fact an Apple II. The old artist's tools like brushes are becoming passé, replaced by touch-sensitive graphics pads and sophisticated graphics software. Today we take a fresh look at computer graphics on this edition of the Computer Chronicles.
The Computer Chronicles is brought to you in part by McGraw-Hill, publishers of Popular Computing magazine, featuring microcomputer applications that increase productivity for managers and professionals.
Welcome to the Computer Chronicles. I'm Stewart Cheifet, and sitting in this week for Gary Kildall is George Morrow. George, our subject today is computer graphics, and that's a relatively new field. I know when I was a kid, the closest I ever got to computer graphics was a little Etch-a-Sketch. And you know, you turn a couple knobs and you can draw a little picture on the screen. I thought this was computer graphics. And I guess the analogy is really not that far off. What I want to ask you to begin with, George, is there really seems to be an explosion in interest in computer graphics right now. A year or two ago, people were talking a lot about computer graphics, but in fact, not that many people were buying or using graphics software. What has changed? What's the difference?
Well, there's been some dramatic changes in the hardware that's available, the price of it, and the software that begins to drive that hardware. The Macintosh is probably the best example of this marriage of software and hardware that makes it easy to create visual images without all the work that used to have to go on. And this same thing that's happening in the Macintosh is beginning to move over in the PC world, the PC compatibles, the IBM world. And artists now are beginning to really use this stuff as a productivity tool, and I think it's going to change the way commercial artists work in the next year or two.
Okay, today we're going to take a look at what influence the Macintosh had on computer graphics. We'll see an image digitizer, we'll meet a computer artist, and lots more. Now, another reason why computer graphics have taken off is because business has discovered that good graphics means good business. We're going to begin by taking a look at one business which uses computer graphics.
The graphic artist runs a business based on creativity, turning ideas and concepts into visible form. Until computers, the tools available for this transformation were based on some kind of ink, paint, or dye. Putting a line to a piece of paper meant committing the idea to a form. Today, the computer's special ability to manipulate ideas is giving the artist a new electronic flexibility. Inga Infante designs book covers for a publisher several thousand miles away. While she still keeps traditional tools in her studio, she has moved most of her artwork to a computer screen. The original design is drawn on a digitizing pad. Colors are applied from a choice of palettes, always displayed in a corner on the screen. To submit her designs for approval, Inga no longer needs to make numerous copies on paper. Instead, she draws several on the screen and makes phototransparencies of each. If the publisher wants changes, Inga can recall the design from disk and make the change without affecting the rest of the artwork. Graphics packages are available for a wide range of computers, from VIC-20s to the newest supercomputers. But a sophisticated application doesn't always mean a sophisticated price. This work was done on a Z80-based machine with some external graphics support. Most impressive is the amount of time it saved. This book cover would take 4 times as long to design by hand as by computer.
Joining us now is Marijn Kramer with Apple Computers. Marijn is a software product manager there, and Mark Bulla, the Director of Technical Services for New Image Technology, Inc. George?
Tell us about MacDraw here. How does it differ from MacPaint?
The basic difference between MacDraw and MacPaint is that MacDraw has a structured approach versus graphics, and that means that each object is regarded as a separate entity, and once it's designed on the screen, it can be manipulated at any time. And that allows a great use, first of all, in the business environment for presentations on one side, and due to its precision and accuracy, it allows further use in the technical area for architectural and engineering design.
Give us an example then of how you would use MacDraw.
Let's say in the business environment, I want to do a quick org chart for a business presentation. I go and select one of the palette tools, like in a MacPaint document. I draw a rectangle, which is a box, and it shows me that it is regarded as an entity by these handles. To make it a bit more fancy, I go in, duplicate this box, fill it with a black pattern, and then send it to the back to get a three-dimensional effect. This is possible due to the multi-level capability. Then I select this whole drawing because I need some more boxes for my other parts of the drawing. I duplicate them, put one box here.
Okay, since MacDraw, as you say, treats that whole graphic as an entity, you can pull the whole composite graphic over.
And
there.
I can do that again. And this way I already have my org chart more or less designed. The only things that are left to do is basically combine them with some lines.
That's right. You're rushing. Well, you don't have to work this time around, all right? And then you can, when you finish that, you can then enter labels inside your boxes from the keyboard.
Right. And the only thing that is left to do, basically, is I go in here, type my titles, and then I can go ahead and print it out on the laser printer.
So there's a lot of familiarity here from MacPaint.
The other thing I can do, as I said before, precision and accuracy allow me to do things like floor plans and draw to scale capabilities. And that's why I'm loading up a floor plan which was designed before in order to show you some of these capabilities, how I can modify an already existing floor plan.
We see we can scroll on and off here with a larger picture than one on the screen.
Let's say I want to add another desk in this office. I go in, select my desk here, which I have designed before, duplicate it. I want it the other way around, so I go to my Arrange menu and rotate it. I grab the desk, pull it over here, get a chair for the person who is supposed to work there, duplicate that as well. And this way, I see how it would look if I add another desk in that office. Let's say the boss wants a carpet in his office. I select my rectangle from the palette, I go in here, I draw him a carpet in his office. I fill it with a gray pattern, and just by saying send to back, I see what the effect is on the screen. Now, if I want to have more accuracy due to want to see what my sizes are, I go in here, show size, and that shows me exactly my dimensions in the program.
Lauren, you have a laser printer hooked up to that.
Right.
You could get a hard copy of that graphic then.
Right.
Do you have an example there?
Let me show you the hard copy output, and that shows you the high quality of the laser printer at the same time.
Yes, it does.
Now, Mark, let's get you into the act. We've seen how MacDraw is a little bit more sophisticated here than MacPaint. You can digitize a picture and then manipulate it in the same way. Tell us how Magic works, your product.
Okay, it takes a video signal and cuts it up into little pieces and assigns gray patterns to the levels of light and puts it into the Macintosh in a MacPaint file format.
What would I use one of those things for after I did that?
You could use it for, say, a small company newsletter. It's an easy and convenient way of putting pictures into your little newsletter.
I see.
And just printing them out on the laser
Nothing
printer.
in between.
Mark, show us how, let's take a picture of George for the Morrow Company newsletter here.
Okay.
And see how we would digitize George.
Okay, I'll use this. This is the camera we provide with the digitizer. First thing I need to do is find out what light level he is.
There he is.
Yes.
And he's way up near the top since it's bright in here. And that's
Look at
George.
that.
So you've got your little built-in light meter, huh?
Right. The next thing I need to do is place the patterns. The gray patterns are on the bottom of the screen. I'm not sure how they show up, but I place them where I need them to fill in the grays where George is. This is coming in pretty good. All I need to do now is to go into the center and click the mouse and it would take a full screen picture of George. What it does is it takes in levels of light, one level at a time, and assigns patterns to them.
How much would this cost me? I'm going to run out and get one of these.
You want to buy your picture.
The digitizer itself costs $349. Comes with the software and all the hardware you need to hook it up to the Macintosh.
How about the camera?
The camera is an inexpensive security camera. It costs $150.
So for $500, anyone that has a Macintosh machine can do this sort of thing.
Sure can.
I don't think you're going to be able to keep up come Christmas.
Hope not.
Mark, tell us what's going on now on the screen.
I'm reviewing a couple pictures that I have on the disk right now. Let's see, $1's a good one. We can review these pictures, go from one picture to the next in somewhere around 3 seconds.
Amateur counterfeiting, right in front of you.
These are just pictures that we took. These all have 3 levels of gray. Right now we're up to 38 levels of gray.
Memory technology, dense, cheap memories.
Right. Now, Mark, could you take one of these pictures and manipulate them in the way that Marine was doing in MacDraw?
Sure, you go into the program called MacPaint, and you can do anything with that. Actually, I'm sure you can take it into MacDraw also and manipulate it. You can do anything with these pictures that you can do with a MacPaint picture.
Comic books?
Really? What about hard copy? Can you get hard copy from these digitized
Sure,
pictures?
you print it out on the laser printer, the HP laser printer, the Apple laser writer.
If once it's in the MacDraw or the MacPaint format, it comes right onto the laser printers.
Right, exactly.
So this is an example of building on existing software.
Is this, what do you do with it for real? I mean, you mentioned the newsletter application. It's a neat little toy. There's no question about it. I mean, what are people going to buy it for? What do you think users would do with it?
There's a number of uses for it. Because we split up the picture, the light intensities into different sections. You can assign any patterns to any light intensity that you want. There are a number of scientific applications you can use it for. Densitometry is a good one, which uses X-rays and that sort of thing to find out how dense objects are.
In just a minute, we're going to take a look at a new color graphics program for the non-Mac crowd, something called Dazzle Draw, and we'll look at a very sophisticated color graphics program which gives you 16 million different colors to play with. So stay tuned. Joining us now is Ed Bernstein. Ed is the Director of Product Development in Broderbund Software. And next to Ed, James Dowlin, a computer artist with Time Arts, Inc. George.
This Dazzle Draw that you have, how much influence do you think the game software has had on this sort of thing?
Well, quite a lot, really. I think the desire to do high-resolution graphics on screen goes hand in hand with development of games. David Snyder, who did Dazzle Draw, was formerly a game programmer.
So show us, Ed,
yes.
I'm sorry, George, what Dazzle Draw does here.
Well, basically it does what MacPaint does, only it does it in 16 colors and does it on a computer that costs a little bit less. Now what I've done here is chosen a palette of paint brushes. I get to choose the size of my brush over here. I've chosen a size already. And then I can just go up on screen, and in this case, write my name, change colors, decorate it, even change to a pattern and do the same thing.
Do you have anything of a finished nature that you could show us?
I do have some pictures on the disk that show what a real artist can do.
A lot reminiscent here of MacPaint.
Well, very much like it. You're using a mouse, and it looks like the Mac environment, only without the Mac.
Yeah, we make no bones about it. That's what we set out to do, and we did it.
A Mac Paint for somebody who doesn't have a Mac.
Exactly.
Or that already has an Apple.
Or that yeah, but I mean, what's the memory requirements on this?
It requires, if a 2C has 128K built in, if you're going to use it on a 2E, you have to buy the expansion
You need the
memory card.
128.
Can you turn these menus off?
Yes. The nice part is, since the menus take up some of the picture area, you can actually work the whole picture area. And one thing you can do is, while you're working with the menus, use this little elevator to get at various parts of the picture.
This is just as good as anything you'll see on a PC.
Ed, what's the difference? The Dazzle Draw is a new program for the 2C and the 128K 2Es. There have been other programs that look a little bit like this before, color drawing things on the 2E and so on. What's the difference between that and the earlier ones?
There's really two things. One is that by expanding the memory in the 2E, Apple, and 2C, Apple made it possible to do what's called double high-resolution graphics. In the old days, you could do high-resolution graphics, but only in 4 colors. Now you can get this sort of resolution with all the color choices you see here. The other big difference is using the Macintosh style user interface that makes it makes it easier to manipulate those
so the
images.
pull-down menu, the icons,
Exactly,
that kind of thing.
exactly.
James, as an artist, you come to this from the perspective of an artist, not a computer person.
Right.
What is your reaction to software like this?
I'm very impressed with the number of colors and the kind of high resolution he talks about. I think, and also the speed with which images can be created on the computer. That opens up a whole new world for artists.
But how about the idea of computer art in general? I mean, does this does it make you feel bad that you're not playing with brushes and cans here, or does it make you feel good?
I think some artists might be intimidated at first, maybe thinking that they need to know programming and that kind of thing. And they may feel intimidated the same way an artist maybe felt that way when cameras first started creating images. And of course, painters still paint, cameras take other kinds of pictures.
That's right, each has its own place.
It's a new medium. It's an exciting medium.
James, in just a minute, I'm going to ask you to show us Lumena, which is a much more sophisticated graphics program. It could cost maybe $2,500, but there are still graphics systems which cost in the hundreds of thousands of dollars, the kind you see used by the television networks. We're going to take a look at one of those right now.
Interested in seeing a display of the hottest new computer graphics? Just turn on your television. But watching this new art form doesn't conjure up visions of mathematical coordinates and vectors. So what is the connection?
A lot of parts of animation and software development are similar. And so the tools that you use for developing software are in many cases applicable to developing an animation. We take and we build a three-dimensional model in a three-dimensional space with a camera and lights, but it all only exists as databases in the computer. And what we do is, when that is all set up, we can say, let's look at this scene from where our camera is. And you wait a little bit, and the computer draws that up as if it all really did exist.
And as the tools of the trade become more sophisticated, the designs become more subtle and complex.
We do more and more editing as time goes on. There's a perfect example in the opening for the Super Bowl that we did, which was, it's a 30-second piece and there's about 10 different shots in it. And that was one of the first times we really took and designed a piece with a much more cinematic approach, taking and telling a story using different shots, different angles to do it. Typically in the past it's been long dramatic camera moves. Everyone here has a very rare cross between the arts and computer science. So most people here have a technical degree of some sort, but a very, very strong background in the arts. And it can be any form of the arts. It can be filmmaking, animation, sculpture, photography, anything that has helped them to develop an aesthetic sense and also good three-dimensional visualization.
We've come a long way from hand-drawn animation. This is Robin Garthwaite for the Computer Chronicles.
So we've just seen a very expensive television computer graphics system, and James, before we saw Dazzle Draw at the other end, which sells for about $60, Lumena is somewhere in between. What does Lumena do that Dazzle Draw doesn't?
We have an artist palette of 256 colors on the screen at one time, and that's out of a complete choice of over 16 million colors. And so the artist can create his paint palette much like a painter of oil paint would do. And we also can display, well, we have 512 pixels on this screen, but we can actually create images up to 2024 pixels across, which is getting into a resolution of any conventional medium once it gets onto film.
2,000 pixels per inch will rival a 35 millimeter piece of film.
James, briefly, before we get to the demonstration, what's the hardware configuration here?
The RGB monitor, which is kind of the FM of TV sets, displaying all the color. We have the graphics package here, which houses a hard disk drive and the basic PC type computer it's running off of.
So most of the cost is over here in this expensive color monitor, right, James?
I would say so.
And we're in the IBM PC world as opposed to the Apple
That's
world
right.
before. Now give us a demonstration of what you could do with Lumena.
Well, I'll give a sample here of a high-resolution image, and I can go in. Now, what you see is like an artist's rough sketch of the overall composition. I can move into Getbox, which gives me a little box you'll see which represents a 512 image screen, and zoom into that. And what's coming on the screen then will be the full resolution piece of that full image. And this is where the artist works on the image itself. You can actually paint pixel by pixel, or using all the various different paint brushes and color fills and color grads and airbrush effects and that kind of thing.
And we have here three-dimensional pieces rather than just the two-dimensional pieces with the other packages. So you are getting something for your money, at least.
Sure. Yeah, the images here are rivaling the conventional airbrush painting, I would say, by the time they get out on film.
The hues there are beautiful.
I move through the menu, which comes up and down as I move, into change forms and moves. I can pick a piece of the image, move it to a new location, and this is one of the methods of editing an image, moving pieces around and around. And if this was a new piece of the image, then I would hit put box, and it would put it back in that full view image.
James, could you pull up that first picture we saw? It's pretty impressive. George mentioned dimensionality, and that's a great example of kind of the 3D look you have
Here's
here.
another detail of that full image.
Yeah. Also, while you're pulling up that other picture, what do you do about hard copy? It's nice to see it on the screen, but I take it if you're an artist, you want to get a hold of this sooner or later. How do you do that?
The best method of pulling all this wonderful color would be to put it onto film, and I use an Ektachrome, Kodak Ektachrome. Once you get this displayed on film,
you would shoot the screen?
No, we use a film recorder, it's called. They range everywhere from $3,000 or $4,000 up.
This is direct from disc onto film.
That's right. Yeah, it's a digital input into the film recorder.
So there's no compromise in the transfer.
Right.
The transfer is very, very good.
And what's the resolution of the picture we're looking at?
This is a 512 image, which has a very clean look, and part of the reason we can get such a nice angled lines, etc., without seeing too many of the jaggies, which haunts computer graphics artists. The colors have been anti-aliased, which means for an angled line you can see the various ramping, it's called, of color, which ranges from background to the current color that...
This is so the monitor isn't too badly disturbed as it makes a transition from one surface to another.
That's right.
Gentlemen, thank you very much. We're out of time. Now, is a computer picture really worth 1,000 words? Our commentator, Paul Schindler, has some final thoughts.
This is the way computers like to communicate information. This is the way human beings like to receive information. What we have here is a failure to communicate. Now, graphics are all about ending that failure to communicate, that tendency of computers to spew out tables, and the inability of human beings to turn such data into information. You know, there is a difference. Data are just facts. Information are facts in context that are usable for decisions. One of this country's biggest problems right now is its feast of data and its famine of information. Like most things done on a computer, the conversion of facts to information can also be done by hand. But as computers get cheaper and humans get more expensive, the graphics departments of this world are shrinking and disappearing to be replaced by computers. If we're not to drown in a sea of unusable data, we're going to need all the help we can get to convert it into information. Computers can, will, and must help. You've seen the signs of it on this show. Computer graphics are moving from the stick figure era into the 20th century. They still have a long way to go, but they have to go that way to save us from all that data. That's my opinion. I'm Paul Schindler.
In the random access file this week, the experts say you should stop waiting for the IBM PC2. They say there won't be a PC2 in the foreseeable future. Rumors have circulated for months that IBM was preparing to launch the PC2 featuring the 8286 chip. Recent price cuts in the IBM PC line also fueled the speculation of a new PC, but several market analysts now say the price cuts were aimed only at moving inventory, that IBM's margins on the current PC lines are very healthy, and that there will be a long wait before the entry of the PC2. Meanwhile, at Apple, confusion continues to reign with rumors of massive job layoffs, hostile buyouts by Steve Jobs, and possible takeover attempts. And the general slump in the computer business was everywhere this past week. Layoffs were announced at Wang, where the company projected a quarterly loss for the first time in its history. Control Data announced the closing of 29 plants for a 2-week period. Grid Systems announced a layoff of 10% of its workforce. And Advanced Micro Devices announced the closing of its factories for 2 weeks. One booming part of the computer business is security. The U.S. government, through a program called Tempest, is modifying thousands of personal computers to eliminate the radio signals which computers emit, signals which indicate what the computer is doing. Those signals can be recorded and lead to eavesdropping. The cost of securing the PCs is incredible. The government's National Security Agency says a $3,000 computer can cost $10,000 after it has been silenced. There is no silencing one Paul Schindler, and that's a good thing. Here's Paul with this week's review.
Once again, it's time to take a look at some software for kids. This time, we're going to have a look at Sticky Bear ABC for children from 3 to 6. Now, I've tried it out on my precocious daughter, Marlo, who's just 4 years old, and she loved it. First, let me say that it comes nicely packaged with a book and a poster as well as some stickers. Now, I don't know about your kids, but Marlo loves stickers. You know, it's difficult to say just what age range is appropriate for some of these programs, but I think the Sticky Bear people got it just right. Now, you look and see if you agree. There are 52 different animated pictures in this package, 2 for each letter of the alphabet. Although, for example, the picture for grass is a little obscure, most of the others are easily recognizable. Kids learn the sense of control they get from hitting the keyboard and changing pictures. And as an added plus, they learn how keyboards are laid out. Now, I've tried several packages of this type, and Sticky Bear is the easiest to use. It also sports the best graphics. Sticky Bear ABC, $40 from Xerox Educational Publications in Middletown, Connecticut. Give it a look. For the Computer Chronicles, I'm Paul Schindler.
The early reviews of Jazz are coming in. The positives are ease of use, splashy graphics, and some nice new features, but the criticisms are not enough memory, slow access, and the lack of macros. At the annual robotics conference held this past week in Detroit, manufacturers showed off new sophisticated robots with vision and force sensing. The new robots can recognize parts in any position and can tell when something is going wrong by feeling the extra pressure when parts don't fit right. Robotics engineers say this new generation of smart robots could overcome some of industry's hesitancy to move into robotics. Meanwhile, the consumer robot business continues to boom with the possibility of another big robot Christmas. 2 ex-Atari execs, founder Nolan Bushnell and former president Donald Kingsborough, have each come up with competing computerized pet robots. The new Petsters are mini versions of the animated androids made famous at the Pizza Time theaters. These cats and bears sing, dance, and respond to the noises of their owners with complex facial movements. Both robot pet entrepreneurs say they've already taken over $75 million in orders. Finally, a Mega Wars freak in New Jersey got so addicted to the CompuServe space game that he may find himself in a terrestrial jail. Ken Golden of Cherry Hill, New Jersey got so hooked on Mega Wars that he stole a credit card number to be able to stay online all night and defend his solar system. He may have won the interstellar war, but he lost the legal battle and faces a 5-year prison term and a $250,000 fine. Not too logical. That's it for this week's Computer Chronicles. See you again next week.
The Computer Chronicles was brought to you in part by MacGraw-Hill, publishers of popular computing magazine, featuring microcomputer applications that increase productivity for managers and professionals.